Hey, hi folks, this is Kanish here. Welcome to the first video in my JavaScript fundamental series. In today's video, we'll be looking into a core JavaScript concept and which also happens to be a very hot interview topic. So if you're someone who is like getting started with JavaScript or in the initial phases of learning JavaScript, I'm pretty sure you would have come across these two terms and have had your doubts like what exactly they are and why do we even need those, right? So in this video, I'll try my best to clear all those doubts and by digging deep into what exactly these are. So let's get started. So what is prototype and proto? So in very simple terms, these are just object properties. So what do I mean by that? Say if I have an object here, obj, which has a property A with a value 1, and my prop is another property with a value as an entire object. So just like A and my prop, prototype and proto are also properties. But the main difference being that these are properties which are created internally. So these are not created by developers or we do not create it ourselves. These are already present. And so now the next question that would come is, say, okay, I understand that this is property, but where exactly can I access those properties? Right. So prototype is a property available to constructor functions, and proto is a property of instances created using constructor functions. I know, like a lot of these terms could be very alien or would not make any sense at all. So let's move into an example directly where we'll understand like what I mean by constructor function or what exactly do I mean by creating instances of constructor functions, right? So let's move to an example. So say here I have a function person, and what only thing that it is doing is it's taking a name and assigning that to this. Okay, so here the person function here is nothing but what I refer to as a constructor function, right? And the common naming convention is to name constructor functions with a capital. First letter is capital. So person here is nothing but the constructor function. Okay, so what we do is say now if you want to create a new instance of person, say I want to create a person called name Groot. So what I'll do is I'll use this new operator and call this person function and pass in the name that I want for that person. So the moment I do this, I do a new person. So what I'm doing here is I'm creating a new instance of this person. So Groot is like a new instance of person. Similarly, I create another instance of person called John. So I'm doing the same thing, new person and passing the name as John. Say now now I've created these two instances of person Groot and John. So now I want to create a function which will like log or say it will greet the users that okay, hey, my name is Groot, my name is John. So I want to make sure that these are like functions which are used across all the instances. Say tomorrow if I create 100 other persons, I don't have to create a new copy of that hello function, right? So what for those kind of use cases, what JavaScript provides is it provides a property called the prototype. So prototype here is the property which we can use to add properties or methods which can be reused or shared across all the instances of the uh, like instances created using the constructor function. So say what I'm doing here is person. I'm using person and I'm telling that in the prototype property of person assign a function called say hello, and what it would do is it would just say hello, my name is so and so. Okay. Then the next thing that I do is I do a similar thing. In the prototype, I assign a property called home and I say that it's a string called planet X. So basically what I'm doing here is any person that I create now, I can directly call this function. Say I created Groot and now if I say Groot dot say hello, it will log my name is Groot, right? So if you see hello, my name is Groot. Similarly, if I do the same thing for John, hello, my name is John, right? So this same function that we created here is being accessed, or a proper technical term here would be inherited by all the instances of person. So that is the use case, or that is the main benefit of having this prototype, right? So we are adding properties which are inherited by all the instances of this constructor person. And then yeah, we also added this property called home, right? So let's see what John's home is. It says planet X. Similarly, if we see Groot's home, it should also be planet X. So both of them are in the same planet, planet X. Okay, so this is what prototype is basically. So now if you have to create a mental model, so prototype is nothing but it's like a normal object only, right? So where we are storing all these properties. Say hello was a method, and then we had another property called home. So this is what prototype is doing here. So now, how exactly this is working, right? So when I say group John dot say hello, so how exactly is this working, right? So John doesn't have say hello. Say it only has like the John, this returned by John that has only name, right? So how does JavaScript know that I have to access this say hello or what exactly this say hello function is. So for those kind of use cases, so that JavaScript can actually find where exactly my say hello function is defined, where I can actually look or like see that where are those common functions defined, right? So for those cases, we have this property called underscore underscore proto. So what would happen is at the moment I call john.sayhello, it will JavaScript engine will see if I have say hello defined inside Groot. So it's not there. Then what would happen is it would check whether this say hello is present inside John's proto. So basically what JavaScript would do is say it would move to the John's prototype, which is this object that we referred here, right? So this prototype has say hello and home. So for that purpose, it will use the proto is acting as a pointer to that prototype. So how will JavaScript know that how will JavaScript access that prototype? I know that these two methods are available, this method and that property home is available inside the prototype, but JavaScript needs a way to actually access that prototype, right? So here proto is acting as a pointer to that prototype. So if I just log console dot okay, okay, yeah. So if I just log root dot underscore underscore proto, you see it is just printing that object that I referred to here, right? Say hello and home. So does that mean that this proto is similar to person dot prototype? What do you think? Okay, let's give it a shot. So this should be true, right? So group dot underscore underscore proto is equal to person dot prototype. So this solidifies and like verifies like what I said already, right? So what I said was proto is nothing but a pointer to, say if I go back to the example, it is a property of instances created using constructor function. So Groot was a instance of the person, which is a constructor function, and proto is a property which is available inside Groot, and it holds the reference to the prototype of the constructor function, which is this one. So person is the constructor function. So if I just do the mental mapping here, right? So proto points to the prototype of constructor function, right? And what is the constructor function in this case for Groot? It's the person function. Okay, so I hope I was able to make some sense here. Okay, so yeah, so this is what we already discussed, right? Why are they needed events? So the prototype property is nothing but it lets us add reusable methods and properties which can be shared by all instances created using the constructor function. And proto is acting as a pointer to that prototype, so that when JavaScript is saying that okay, I am looking for a method which is not present inside that object, it will look for that in the prototype. Then if it doesn't find in the prototype, it would look for that prototype's prototype. Okay, so let's try to visualize like whatever we have discussed so far. I feel like things would make more sense after that. So we had this person constructor, right? So we are using this person constructor to construct an instance of person called Groot, and to that instance we are passing the name as Groot. So now say I want to access this say hello method. So what happens exactly, right? So whenever we are trying to access any property which is not defined inside this function, say inside this object, say Groot doesn't have a say hello property directly, right? So then what would happen is JavaScript will try to see if that method is available in the prototype, right? So but how does it actually get access to the prototype? So that is where like the proto comes into the picture. So as we discussed, proto holds a reference or pointer to the prototype of the constructor, right? So this proto will now point to that person's prototype, which actually holds this say hello function, which we are trying to trigger. So the moment it finds the say hello in the prototype, it will trigger this function and like the job is done. But say if this would not have been present in this prototype also, so then it will continue to look in the prototype's prototype. So we'll be looking into that case also, how that actually works, like how the chaining works. So basically, this is the main reason why you would have heard this, right? Every object in JavaScript has a prototype object. So that this is how this entire thing is working. Like because of the presence of this proto property, every object gets access to this prototype object. So yeah, I think let's move one level deeper. Things would turn a lot more interesting after that. So now we have this prototype object. Okay, so we have this prototype object. So this prototype object also has a proto property. So what do you think this proto property will point to? Take a second, try to think. So as a refresher, so we discussed that proto points to the prototype of constructor functions, right? So use this statement and try to think like what could be the proto pointing to in this case. Yeah, so I hope you guessed it right. So let's see what exactly is happening here. So what did we say? We said that proto points to prototype of constructor functions. Okay, so this is an object. So what do you think is the constructor of this object? Yeah, so the constructor of this object is the object constructor function. So using this object constructor, we are actually creating, or you can say constructing this object. Though this is happening internally, whenever you create any object, this is actually getting uh, taken care of internally, and it's getting created using the object constructor. So this object constructor has a prototype property, and all the properties that you usually see which is available in all the objects, right? Say has own property to string and all the other properties which you see readily available in all the objects. So this is where it is coming from. So this is the prototype of object, and all any object that you create will point to this prototype object. So this is why I mentioned here all objects have access to this. So this is being shared by all instances of the object. Okay, so now the next thing is, like, say now what happens to the proto of this one, right? So this proto would point to null. So why is that? So this is basically, it indicates that this is the end of the prototype chain and there is nothing to look after this, right? So this says or tells the JavaScript engine that, okay, you need to stop here. If you're looking for any property and you reach till here, that means that property doesn't exist in this entire prototype chain. So are you guys able to follow me so far? If your answer is yes, then I would request you to like hold your concentration for say another 2 minutes. I'm pretty sure like we'll be digging a lot more deeper, and after that there shouldn't be any doubt revolving around this proto and prototype. So let's move another level down. Okay, so now say we also had this person constructor, right? So this was a normal function. So this also has a proto. So what do you think this proto should be pointing to? So with the same logic, so the proto of any thing should point to the constructor's prototype. So what is the constructor for this person? It is the function constructor, because this is a person as a function, and every function is created using the function constructor. So this function constructor has a prototype, which is all these methods that we usually use, right? Call, apply, and bind. So this function's prototype has all these methods, and as a result, person, which is an instance of a function, so this proto would point to that function's prototype. And just like person, if you would have any other function, every function would have access to this prototype. Okay, so I hope this made sense till here. Let's move another level. Okay, so now say we come here. So this object is also a function instance, right? So this also has the proto property. So where do you think this one should point to? This is very easy. I think you should be able to get it. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so this proto points to functions prototype. So why is that? The same reason, right? So this object constructor is also an instance of function, and with the same logic, this also points to the prototype of a function, which is this one. Okay, so now this is the last one. Yeah, I promise this is the last thing. So now we have this prototype of function, right? So this also has a proto. So where do you think this should point to? Okay, so let's see. Yeah, so this proto points to object's prototype. So why is that? So with the same reason, right? So this is also a normal object. So this object is also created using the object constructor. The object constructor is creating this object. As a result, the proto of this would point to object's prototype. So as a result, you would have heard this statement, right? Everything in JavaScript is an object. So this is why this statement holds true. So everything that you see in JavaScript is an object, because everything would end up in the object's prototype in the prototype chain. So I think I know like this was a lot of prototype and all this entire chain thing. So I would request you to maybe like go through this entire chain once, and like I hope you'll be able to get a better understanding of it after that, if not in the one go. So I think that's it from the visualization part. So let's try to summarize like whatever we discussed so far. So we had discussed that prototype and proto are just like normal object properties. And where are they accessible? Prototype is accessible to constructor functions, and proto is available to instances created using those constructor functions. And why do we need them? So mostly they are mainly needed for achieving inheritance. And the reason why we need inheritance is that it helps us reuse methods and properties across all the instances, right? So we won't be creating new copies of it. And to achieve inheritance, a proto acts as a helper or a pointer to that prototype. So as a result, we can establish that prototype chain, which in a way JavaScript uses to implement inheritance. I think that's it from this video. I hope you are able to learn something new. So please share your feedback, like how I can improve and what kind of content you would like to see next. Yeah, thank you.